as a quick intro, the thing that I want to demonstrate now is actually working through some of these things. So I'm going to demonstrate the rottenpotatoes.app, the version which is currently deployed on Heroku, navigating this with a keyboard, navigating with a screen reader. And I'll show you both on like an iPhone and Mac OS because the interactions are a little bit different. And then I'll just point out a couple things on your device that you might not be aware of, but are accessibility features that interact with things or interact with web pages. So what I have here is, a currently deployed version of Rotten Potatoes. It has some of the features that you've been working on in chips, so I can select ratings, so on. The columns are not yet sortable, but that's fine. But on a computer, you do need to enable this in your browser settings, which I won't do right now, but I'll just note that it might be something if you want to try to search for, is as I hit the tab key, where is my cursor actually? Okay, it's right here. Let me make this a little larger so it shows up. As I hit the tab key, what you'll start to see is, I hit it a few times, there's a little sort of ring that moves between the various form controls here. So I can hit the space bar to select and deselect them. This is a place where I would say that if I'm building a real app, I should actually probably design better focus states such that this ring appears a little bit more visibly. CSS allows you to do this, but I can do things. Actually, let's disable a couple more form controls. I can tab through. You can hit Shift Tab to go back and forth. And then I can do something like hit Enter on this button to actually activate the button. The browser refreshes the page. And I should be able to navigate through this page just like any user. Now, if I start hitting Tab again, you'll see here, I actually start at the top. I tab through the links up here, and I can just keep tabbing through, do things like navigate to a particular movie, and I can hit Enter to perform those actions. And if you follow standard HTML, you get most of this, for free. You don't have to do things like, specifically tell a browser that this thing is a link if you're using standard HTML elements. We're not going to cover this, but if you're not using standard HTML elements, you have plenty of freedom and control to do that. That's navigating the page with a keyboard. Now, every computer, whether it's Mac, Windows, or Linux,
accessibility shortcuts.
Let's see if I can actually turn that down a little bit. No, I cannot. Let me try this really quick and see. All right, well, we'll see if that helps. Otherwise, it might be a little bit loud. So on the Mac,
accessibility shortcuts.
All right, it's just going to be a little bit loud. So
use the tab key to navigate and press space to toggle an option.
All right, so on the Mac, you can hit Command Option F5 by default to bring up a whole panel of accessibility options. And these are really sort of useful features for controlling devices. On Windows, I don't know the keyboard shortcut, but there is a feature called Windows Narrator, which is a similar screen reader. Android devices have a screen reader built in. There should be one on, most Linux distributions. I forget what it's called. But here I can turn on
check. VoiceOver on Universal Access Control. Accessibility shortcuts. Window.
So on the Mac with VoiceOver, hitting the Control key is sort of affectionately,
Safari, Flash, Rotten.
It's affectionately known as the shut up button. And you can actually see that the goal here is taking all the content on the screen and trying to describe it to users. I have the speech rate turned up a little bit quickly. One of the things which is super interesting about humans, but if you get used to things, people who rely on a screen reader in their daily lives typically will have it at something like a few hundred words per minute, and they can actually read and navigate a page faster than we can just by sight because they get so used to using tools that augment their interaction. So the goal here, and I'm not going to go through absolutely everything that we could do, but as we tab through, you'll hear the screen reader speak various pieces of content. So just kind of try and pay attention at first to what it's doing.
G. Golf. Checkbox. Main. Your PG. Checkbox.
So that's
you are currently on a checkbox. To select.
So it's telling us, right, we're on a checkbox. It's telling us PG. And the screen reader is picking up the fact that this checkbox has a value of PG because this label here that we see is associated with that checkbox. It's going to tell me that to check a checkbox, I can hit space or I can hit a certain combination of screen reader shortcuts.
PG R ends refresh button.
But
you are currently on.
when it says refresh button, the screen reader is picking up the fact that what I have is a button because that is the HTML type tag that was used. The nice thing is with tables, we also get some of that information.
Entering table. Visited. Link. Show. Table. 4 columns. 7 rows.
So if I tab through just to navigate, there are other ways of navigating content with various keyboard shortcuts. But what's telling me there is I have a table, 7 columns, 4 rows. It actually picks up the column information by using things like table headings to give the user description. And so screen readers are a really useful tool for navigating web pages. So I'm going to turn it off on the Mac for now. So that
Universal access control. Accessibility voiceover off.
The nice thing is, if you're using a screen reader for testing, the way that screen readers work is that they allow you to work both by navigating with the mouse and by using the keyboard. And a lot of folks who have partial vision or just low vision might actually have some sight where they use both at the same time to interact. So I'm going to switch to a phone right now. And let's see. All right. So I already have VoiceOver turned on this phone, but on iOS, you can triple click to turn it on of the side button, or you can go into your settings. And the really cool thing is that screen readers allow people to use touchscreen devices all entirely without actually needing to use a screen. But of course, because some folks have partial sight, both work at the same time, but you can actually use the phone screen off and get everything that you need to, at least with a well-designed app. So on iOS, it works.
Table start. 7 rows, 4 columns.
The screen reader works just by sort of swiping through.
Rating. Column header. Column 2.
And you'll notice here, right, as I move elements, I'm just going to be swiping my finger primarily left and right. I guess I should refresh the page for the deployed version, but that's okay for now. What the screen reader is doing is it's actually picking up things like the column header. So if I just swipe through,
rating. Cat G. Column 2.
So notice it says rating G here. There's actually no text in the cell that describes that it's the rating, but because we know that we're in a table that has a column header of rating, the screen reader actually picks that up and can describe that to us. And so that is a really useful thing about having proper markup. The final thing that I'll show.
Action. Release date. Rating. Title. Movies. Toggle navigation. Button. End. Navigation. Collapse. Double tap to expand.
So notice here that it says toggle button navigation. By using tools like Bootstrap and getting a proper menu, what we have here is a control that not only does the screen reader tell us that we can toggle it, which implies that it can be open or closed, but it also said collapse. So if I double tap.
Toggle navigation. It's expanded.
Now it tells me that it's expanded. And what's really cool about iOS and most touchscreen devices is once this control is selected, I can double tap anywhere on the screen. I don't have to double tap specifically on the top corner where it's selected. And as I navigate through this.
Movies. Visited. Link. List start.
So now it tells me link. It tells me that I'm in a list.
Moviegoers. Visited. Link. Logout. Link. List end. End. Action. Title. The Italian Job. Row 6. Toggle navigation. Button. It's expanded. Double tap to collapse. Toggle navigation. End. Navigation. Collapse.
One of the things that's a little challenging with screen readers is that depending on the mode, I have it set so I can tap elsewhere on the page. Probably not the best thing, but useful for testing. But in that case, what I get is, you notice at the end, as I collapse and expand the menu, it actually tells the user something about the state. And that's using HTML attributes that we'll talk about in a moment to convey that kind of information. So our devices are pretty powerful, and you can do a lot of cool things by exposing proper HTML attributes to the user. So I'm going to unplug this now, go back to the computer, but it's a fun thing to try and to get practice with, because it turns out that a lot of people use these technologies in their daily lives to be able to interact with the computer in ways that, hopefully, right, it's something where you don't need to use it, but they're thankfully there when you do. So before we continue, sort of questions on demos or things so far, and then we'll jump back over to talking about how we build some of these things. Questions? If there are no questions, then what are we doing time-wise? All right. Awesome. So I'm not going to go through everything, but like on the Mac, Command Option F5 in settings for both iOS and macOS, there's a whole accessibility control panel, which you should definitely, take a look at. There's lots of useful things, regardless of whether or not you need them for a specific accessibility reason. things like just being able to zoom in on the screen, useful when you present meetings or want to focus something. Making the cursor larger is something that's really useful for presentations, because if the cursor were its default size, you wouldn't be able to see it. So these features have a lot of use cases beyond just the immediate, first thoughts.